It generates more electricity than 18 nuclear power plants. It holds back 39 trillion liters of water. And every single year, the world watches nervously as China's flood season begins. This is the Three Gorges Dam, and today we're going to tell you everything about it. The Three Gorges Dam sits on the Yangtze River in Hubei Province, central China. But to understand why this dam exists, you first have to understand the river itself. The Yangtze is not just any river. It is the third longest river in the world, stretching over 6,300 kilometers from the Tibetan Plateau all the way to the East China Sea. It drains a basin that is home to roughly 400 million people, about a third of China's entire population. Civilizations have lived along its banks for thousands of years. They farmed it, fished it, traded on it, and they feared it, because the Yangtze, for all its gifts, has always had a violent side. It is the world's largest hydroelectric dam by power output, capable of generating 22,500 megawatts of electricity. To put that in perspective, that's enough to power a country the size of Argentina. The dam stretches 2,335 meters across, nearly 1.5 miles wide, and it stands 185 meters tall, taller than a 60-story skyscraper. Behind it sits the Three Gorges Reservoir, one of the largest man-made lakes on Earth, stretching roughly 600 kilometers upstream, about the distance from London to Edinburgh. For thousands of years, the Yangtze River flooded its banks, killing hundreds of thousands of people. In 1931 alone, floods along the Yangtze killed an estimated 3.7 million people, one of the deadliest natural disasters in human history. But 1931 was not an isolated tragedy. In 1954, catastrophic floods killed over 30,000 people and displaced nearly 19 million more. Then in 1998, floods along the Yangtze killed more than 4,000 people, left 14 million homeless, and caused roughly $30 billion in economic damage. That 1998 flood in particular was a turning point. It gave new urgency to a project that had actually been on the drawing board for decades. The idea of damming the Yangtze at the Three Gorges, a dramatic stretch of steep cliffs and narrow gorges in central China, was first proposed as far back as 1919 by Sun Yat-sen, the founder of modern China. Mao Zedong famously wrote a poem about it in 1956, imagining a great wall rising across the river. But for most of the 20th century, it remained a dream. Too expensive, too complex, too politically fraught. It wasn't until 1992 that China's National People's Congress formally approved the project. And even then, in a remarkable moment for a body not known for dissent, nearly a third of delegates voted against it or abstained. That alone tells you something about how controversial this project was, right from the very beginning. Construction began in 1994. It was completed in 2006. Total cost, over $37 billion US, though many independent analysts believe the true figure, when indirect costs are factored in, is considerably higher. Now the engineering itself is extraordinary. The dam required 27 million cubic meters of concrete, enough to build a sidewalk around the Earth twice over. At peak construction, more than 40,000 workers were on site at any given time. The project also required the diversion of the entire Yangtze River, temporarily rerouted through a specially constructed channel while the main structure was built. The dam's 32 main turbines are among the largest ever made. Each one alone can generate more electricity than many small power stations. When the dam operates at full capacity, it can displace the equivalent carbon output of burning roughly 50 million tons of coal per year, a figure China has frequently cited to justify the project's enormous cost. The dam was designed for three purposes: flood control, power generation, and improving navigation along the river. And on paper, it has delivered on all three. The reservoir can absorb floodwater equivalent to roughly 22 billion cubic meters during peak flood season, dramatically reducing the risk of the kind of catastrophic floods that devastated the region throughout the 20th century. Cargo ships that once struggled to navigate the rapids of the Three Gorges can now travel more smoothly between inland cities and the coast. And the electricity, that 22,500 megawatts, feeds into China's vast national grid, powering factories, homes, and cities across the country. But the dam came at a massive human cost. To fill the reservoir, China had to flood entire cities, towns, and villages along the Yangtze. 1.3 million people were forcibly relocated. Entire communities that had existed for centuries, gone. The city of Guangzhou alone lost entire districts to the rising water. Chengdu, a city with 2,000 years of history, was almost entirely submerged. Residents were given little choice, and in many cases, inadequate compensation. Relocation camps were built in unfamiliar terrain, far from the farmland and fishing grounds people had depended on for generations. Studies conducted years later found that many relocated families experienced significant economic hardship and psychological distress that lasted well beyond the move itself. Archaeologists raced to preserve historical sites before the waters rose, but many were lost forever. The Three Gorges region had been a cradle of human habitation for hundreds of thousands of years. Rock carvings, ancient temples, Han Dynasty tombs, sites connected to the Ba people who lived along the Yangtze long before recorded Chinese history. All of it submerged. Some artifacts were relocated in a frantic rescue effort. Most were not. Environmentalists warned about the impact on rare species, including the Yangtze River dolphin, also known as the baiji, now believed to be extinct. The Yangtze finless porpoise is critically endangered. The Chinese sturgeon, one of the oldest fish species on Earth, a creature that survived the age of the dinosaurs, is now on the brink. The dam disrupted sediment flows that have sustained the river's ecosystem for millennia. Downstream, erosion has accelerated. Wetlands that once acted as natural flood buffers have diminished. The river that the dam was built to tame has in many ways been fundamentally and perhaps permanently altered. And engineers raise questions about the dam's long-term safety, questions that have never fully gone away. The reservoir's weight, 39 trillion liters of water pressing down on the Earth, has been linked to increased seismic activity in the region. Landslides along the reservoir's steep banks have become more frequent since the water level rose. In 2020, during an especially severe flood season, satellite imagery appeared to show the dam's structure had slightly deformed, bending under pressure. Chinese authorities denied there was any cause for concern, but the images were widely circulated, and the debate they triggered was not easily dismissed. Independent engineers outside China noted that some degree of flexing in a structure of this size is normal, but the lack of transparent, independently verified data makes it genuinely difficult to assess the dam's true condition. There is also the question of sedimentation. All dams eventually fill with silt. The Yangtze carries one of the heaviest sediment loads of any river on Earth. China has invested significantly in managing this problem, using a technique called sediment flushing to periodically release built-up silt. But the long-term sustainability of the reservoir's capacity remains an open question among hydrologists. The Three Gorges Dam is one of the most extraordinary and most controversial engineering projects in human history. It has reshaped China's energy landscape, reduced the threat of flooding for hundreds of millions of people, and demonstrated what large-scale state-directed engineering can achieve. But it has also displaced over 1 million people, silenced a river that once ran wild and free, and raised questions about safety and environmental cost that may not be fully answered for decades. It is a structure that demands you hold two things in your mind at the same time: genuine admiration for what human beings can build, and genuine discomfort about what gets sacrificed in the building. In our next video, we'll ask the question many engineers are quietly discussing: is the Three Gorges Dam actually safe? If you found this video useful, subscribe. We cover China's infrastructure, floods, and geopolitics every week.